Ja, herzlich willkommen zurück. Ich hoffe, Sie haben die Pause genutzt mit Gesprächen, die Sie weiterbringen. Ihr habt gesehen, die Infopoints und auch die Roundtables waren gut besucht. Ich freue mich unheimlich, gemeinsam mit Ihnen jetzt auf die Keynote mit Martin Wezowski. Ich habe ihn das erste Mal auf der Bühne gesehen. Da wurde er als Rockstar unter den Futuristen vorgestellt. Sie werden gleich auch einen Blick dazu gewinnen, wie das gemeint sein kann. Martin, welcome to our Innovation Day. This morning we have already learned a lot about how to increase added value from data and which innovative scenarios and solutions support this. And now we are very curious and delighted to take a look together with you to the future and how we will work.
Thank you very much. I'm super excited to be here this morning. I mean, we live in such exciting and difficult times. Maybe I should just jump right in. Okay, let's do it. So, dear listeners, I can't see you all, which is, sign of the times, obviously. But I think I can give you a little bit of a perspective. So if you look at this horizon, it's almost like a black slide. It's not super exciting. We've seen horizons before, but this one is difficult to grasp in its entirety. It's a horizon, and it shows almost an empty sky, but there is one tiny little pixel of a dot there, and it's there, and that's Earth. This is a picture from the latest Mars rover that is hanging around there and taking a picture of us. Everything we know, as Carl Sagan said, if you haven't heard it, it's a beautiful speech. Everything we know, ever known, everything we have ever understood, and for quite some while, everything we will understand happens there on that little pixel. And that should give us a perspective looking into the future. And looking into the future is not a new thing. You might not know this guy from this picture, but this is the very famous Thomas Edison. And he had a hobby in 1910. Besides reinventing the world as we know it with electricity, an enormously capable businessman, and also cunning businessman in fights with Tesla and so on, you know that, he had a hobby of making science fiction movies. Why? Why does such a serious business person do such whimsical stuff? Here, he actually invents, in the science fiction, a powder. You can put the powder or you sprinkle the powder on anything, and then that thing flies. So obviously he imagines then that, oh, wait, if I put the powder on myself, this magical science fiction technology, maybe I can fly as well. So this is what he does. And for me, this is an important notion. What drives us, not only us as humans, but also sometimes our business. Now, he does this, and obviously then he flies away. Yeah, there he goes. And he flies to Mars. That was his destination. It's the first imagination made there in one of the science fiction movies there. With the power of this imagination comes the power of shaping. This is why imagination is a business activity that should propose very, very difficult questions we should ask us every morning we get up. And the question is obviously, what's the future? I tell you one thing that the future is. It is an action sport. It is something that feels and is in reality like an action sport. Because if you feel that you're doing everything right, you really predicted this course and you know how to run, you know exactly how to do it, you're not doing the action sport. You're just doing what you already knew before. You don't do the future. You don't do innovation, actually. You must sometimes feel really, really wrong before you get the golden medal, not the last place or not the bronze. You really, really push yourself to somewhere where you don't know where you're going to be. Somewhere you cannot predict, but you can prepare for it. One company did it very, very well. You might have seen it. I love this example. I've been showing it around for years, but I show it again to you. Let the company and their services and products tell us how it works.
I want to be a scientist.
Eureka! A scientist. I think science is so amazing. Why do you want to be a scientist?
I always really liked chemistry and physics in school.
The study of physics is incredible. Take gravity. You can't see it, but the second you trip, it's right there to pull you down. Did you ever fall or trip on something?
Yeah, unfortunately, all the time.
It happens to me all the time. That's gravity pulling you down.
She's funny.
Sometimes with an ouch.
I love this because you see, this is Moore's law in action. If we in this audience obviously are very aware of the exponential development of Moore's law. She's $100, $100 on Amazon when I bought it back then. And processor power and the technology is like something we had 15 years for serious computers. Seriously, natural language processing, cloud computing, like everybody should be in. Wi-Fi connection, all these technologies converging, exponential. This is a classic example of the future. Now, there's always a bigger picture. And this is where I'm starting to spin it out in how we think in our laboratories when we think 15, 10 years ahead. What could be more addressed here with this service? Could she sense that the kid is hungry? And maybe deliver a hamburger with Amazon drones and GPS, obviously sensors there with the credit card you put into this to this system, consulting the latest research on nutrition, optimizing the diet for kids, who knows? Or maybe the hamburger is stolen by another kid and Barbie can record that with her eyes, right? What kind of business is Martel, which is the company, in them? Who that, you know, if this hamburger is stolen and we know a face recognition address, who do we call? You know, do we call the parents, you, SAP or Mattel, or maybe, you know, police? Maybe, you know, hello, it's this police. It's Barbie. I just saw the crime and I can also help you execute the person. If that's your societal prerequisite, I'm just saying, I'm not telling this is a good or bad futures. This is possible futures. And they are always a little bit bigger than you thought. And obviously Mattel ran into problems. People thought the Barbie would be listening to kids. However, they didn't understand that their phones and half of their home already is listening to them. See, we are irrational. We build these relationships that is as important for future and innovation as technology. Like here, people were worried that we kicking dogs back in the days when Boston Dynamics came out some years ago with this. What interested me that people actually complained to PETA, the American Animal Protection Organization. And PETA had to say, guys, we are busy. It's not like we have super amount of millions to respond to every letter. Stop complaining. It's not an animal. But people already had a relationship. So I will be coming back to that. But here's a little pamphlet from 100 years ago. Wear a mask, live a clean and healthy life, keep the pores open, wash your hands before each meal, live in abundance of fresh air, and so on and so on. Get plenty of sleep. Don't worry. Keep your hands out of your mouth. Obviously, this is something we've been saying for 100 years when a pandemic reaches us. This is Spanish flu. This is facts. This is science. But we are not built on this science, this data. Its data doesn't lie. You just need to ask the right questions. And sometimes the right questions are societal and relationship questions. So let's look at the future from all these perspectives. Like, why are these guys going to space? Well, because there's stuff to do. Like this guy quit NASA to build this thing to capture asteroids to squeeze out rocket fuel. He's building gas stations in space. And he quit NASA for doing that? Yes, this is his startup. That's Joel. Gas stations in space. This is a bunch of scientists in Berlin that hooked up with XPRIZE and other brands you see here to build this, or 3D print this, hopefully helping construction machine for lunar explorations. And speaking of business in space, 3 years ago, we saw this 8,000 quadrillion worth of metals in minerals, stone floating around in space. And NASA said just the other year, SpaceX getting the contract to mine it. So really interesting economies happening in space, and it soon probably will hit a hockey stick and become an exponential part of global economy, the solar system economy. Caterpillar, sexy or not, but they are really cool because they are getting contracts to building excavation machines for space. And Under Armour, it doesn't only make running t-shirts, also space suits for Richard Branson. And there's other kind of business out there, still out there, just paid decent amount of money to take a shoot there. And this guy is building hotels in space. And the relationships will come back. Already the artist collective Pussy Riot from Russia says that what's the relationships we will have if we do not write the narrative of how we are going to explore and use space? Basically politics, democracy, and everything in space. Somebody else will and will hand it to us. We just articulated a future called industrialization of space. This is a way of thinking about it. Like if the doctor in the future can know everything. No, but together with AI, they can know every condition in the history of Homo sapiens compared to every research coming out every minute, compared to your health right now. And already today, Chinese robot becomes the world's first machine to pass a medical exam. Obviously, this is questionable news. How was the medical exam in China? Does it, yeah, blah, blah. But you see the trend here. You see what's happening. This is trends we're following. And this is possible through these sensors, technologies that are coming closer into our bodies, inside our bodies. And today we can even 3D print our bodies. This is a startup from Berlin that is told me that, hey, Martin, we have human organs as a service. I was like, guys, that can't be legal. It's really dangerous. But he said, no worries, we 3D print them. I'm holding a piece of that in my hand. What does it mean for innovation, experimentation, education, animal testing, and relationships we will have in the future? And again, Under Armour is connecting 300 million people on a data platform for the fitness, for the well-being, not t-shirts as we thought. This guy is walking to a restaurant, hopefully to open 2020. It didn't happen, known reasons. These guys wanted you to send your body fluids. I know it's a restaurant, body fluids, it's gross, but then they have your DNA. They can see you every time you come in, and they can 3D print the perfect piece of sushi to keep you well, keep you healthy and satisfied with your food. See, data is coming out of our bodies and start to play a major role simply by analyzing customer voice, intonation. This system can tell whether a person is on the phone is about to blow a gasket or is generally exciting. And anything between. Actually, some tries was also to see if I have COVID just in the waveforms of my voice. And another piece of data out of my bodies, we looking today, or this was 2019, when people are trying to implement how we can pass an airport without actually showing a passport, because our data, who we are, is a passport. Who we are, how we smell, how we look, how we walk and talk, and everything around us tells us who we are.
Simply, President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. Now, you see, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone.
Deepfakes
like
is amazing. You can spend a whole weekend watching them. But what they do is take this human, or what is human, the data of being human, and translate that to a different kind of communications. Obviously, this is dangerous. Obviously, this is entertaining and extremely useful as well. The future will tell, and the relationship we'll build with this is very, very important. And we can extract data. The lady is typing there. This guy is driving a Formula One car. In the movies below, both of them are paralyzed. But we can still extract the data. It's not telepathy. It's not science fiction like Obi-Wan Kenobi. May the 4th be with you, by the way, from yesterday, Star Wars. It is electricity, innovation, and all these things. Getting data out of your body, understanding what we're thinking is possible today. And we can get that data through sensors like this one, like a grain of rice 3 years ago. Now the grain of rice is the white thing there, and the sensor is like the grain of sugar. You can swallow it with your morning yogurt, and not only maybe in the future it will measure data and give you up your body temperature, pressure, or whatever for a while. It will actually put data in your brain. Maybe you can make a drink, with Egyptian history and Kung Fu mixed in some way, and you can use this during your day at work. Who knows? We are data. And there is the vast piece of data that we start to decode in such a way, and code in a way, through this new technology of CRISPR-Cas9, designer babies, designing humans, designing everything. What I'm saying is, throughout the history, this moment is special because never through the history has the present been so temporary as it is today. Which leads us to next chapter. Now we know it. How do we take care of it? I think we need a new value set to start with. The skills outlook is moving from the declining skills of manual management, installation, maintenance, management again, guys, sorry managers, but writing, reading even, goodbye, monitoring. We are moving into innovation, learning, creativity, critical thinking, and we need more than 100 years per year to learn that. So we need to rethink what learning and working is. It's the same thing, the ever learning, Emotional intelligence, by the way, very important. Again, reasoning, building these relationships, subjective opinions. And as a company, not only as an individual, we need to move from, we are here to make profit. That's absolute BS. Then you didn't understand economy at all. You are here to build relationships, because then the profit will come out if you have a good business model. Hierarchy is controlling and this planning for everything. Forget it. Have a purpose. Tell all the people, network, so it can empower you and each other through experimentation, innovation, and be transparent about it. Because if you're looking at these kids, can you really, would I dare to stand in front of them and say, this is what you know next 30 years or 10 years even? I have no idea. The rules of the future when we go to work are more like this. Rule number 1 from Nordstrom's in North America: use your good judgment in all situations. There will be no additional rules. I think that's an attitude we could take with us. And looking at innovation, there is this first horizon of innovation that we very well understand. You are here because you're successful in this innovation, incremental innovation, ready to consume, ready to sell. You have 3 months, 3 years, depending on your product. But there's a second horizon, and the timeline changes. It's, do we trust what we have? Do we trust each other? Can we complete each other into going into this future, or complement each other to innovate even further, to extrapolate what we know? The third horizon, and the last one, is very different. If you can extrapolate to it, forecast, it's not the third horizon, it's still the second. That's the rule. The third horizon, it's not forecastable because that doesn't build on what we know. It builds on something imagined. Imagination is a business activity. And you can backcast from that, forecast from where you are, your resources, and you trust the vision. The vision is important, trust yourself, and then you innovate. One way to explain this further is like this. We all know that validate, incubate, scale is seen as an innovation method. It is a startup mentality, but I would put it in operations. It's too late, guys. It should be standard. It belongs in a bigger picture. Doing things right is amazingly appreciated. This is what we do all day. But how do we know if these are the right things to do? Maybe we are effective in the wrong direction. So explore, observe this future fabric. What technologies and new behaviors, relationships pop up? What are the narratives you can build, like industrialization of space? What is your point of view? Now you're sticking your head out, and now you have a strategy. First, then you have a strategy, by the way. First, you need a vision, a point of view. A philosopher, Schopenhauer, said, talent hits the targets no one can hit. This is us. We always win on the market. We do this right. But genius hits targets nobody can see. So what do you see? What's your vision? What's your imagination? This is what I would like to draw attention. And if you put this horizon as a plan, like tactically go to work, you need to establish a vision and the content of it and how you will go about it. Here's my 3 horizons. And the journey is not straight. You use this imagination to rally people and make the vision tangible through concepts, like the automotive industry, concept cars. You pick the attention and the money and the budget, and you go, and then first you make it. Use the slingshot like we do when we fly in, actually, the solar system. One company understood this very early. They had this crazy mission. This was 81. Can you imagine 81? They said, we will have a computer in a book. 81 was computer in a truck. Computer in a book, you learn it in 20 minutes. It's connected to all other computers with a magical radio link. And they started to prototype. Total imagination, total fairy dust, like Edison with his fairy dust, actually. They tried again, maybe it should look like a book. This is just papier-mâché and, plastic. But then they went to market with a pretty ugly thing. Then they make it pretty, then make it small, and then they make it the right size it should be. This is Apple's 26-year journey. And what happened, I think, is the best explanation I heard in Star Trek from the captain there.
Dr. McCoy is right in pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. But I must point out that the possibilities, the potential for knowledge and advancement is equally great. Risk is our business.
By the way, I'm still looking for an executive, a CEO, or someone to give a speech like that when we talk about moving forward, innovation, and how we'll transform ourselves. That would be amazing. Now, last chapter, I promise. How do we apply this? How did SAP apply this in our world as a case study a little bit? And it's not a small one. I mean, SAP touches 75% of the world's transactions. Basically, we touch the world's GDP. What we do must be thought through. We actually, the business, sorry, it's software for business, but it touches every part of your business, your HR, whatever you're doing. So wait a second, once we do something, it's actually about not the future of business software, it's future of work. And if it is bigger and bigger context, like the experiment I did with Barbie, wait a second, this is important. We must be on par with something. We need to build a great relationship and use the software as a means to transport. How do we do it? Well, we establish, or I am involved very heavily, I establish the corporate vision in our team. And one vision we're working on with right now is this. We want to explore how the relationship will be between data and humans. Systems where machine intelligence and human ingenuity flourish in an empathic symbiosis. Machines and humans in empathy. This is actually our vision. This is how we think we will bring also a most sustainable, I mean, not sustainable only from an ecological perspective, future into data. Machine and humans are these two sides of the story, where we have on one side, on machine intelligence, automation and autonomy. On the other side, augmentation of us as business people, us in boardrooms, the whole enterprise, and us as individuals. And let's look at some examples. Automation, for example. This is a Daimler car from the future. I got it from a fellow futurist, actually, a customer of ours, Alexander Markowski is a futurist for Daimler in Berlin. He said, forget the car, look at the people. We will make great cars. Technology is fine, data is fine. Look at the people. Look what they do when we free them. They explore, they talk, they hang out, they have subjective opinions. They do the high value work, the high value human collaborative data processing, rather than putting data into the machine. And we've been doing it for a long time. There's even a book called Bullshit Jobs. Look it up, you will be surprised. It's a scientific book, despite the name. We try to put the repetitive tasks down to the machine so we can start to solve non-routine problems and cognitive and real tasks and the real knowledge work, until we can start exploring, interact with each other. So we leave this manual and cognitive load and start to focus on something we are still really good at, and machines not, which is passion. At least for now, we are really good at it, better. Passions drive the technological and data flow development for exploration interactions for humans. Now, when you move to the human side very quickly, but just to save time, I call it the augmented me, the sensation of who am I at work, putting humans in the center of that work. And the best way I can show you is through this example. We call it Hanalytics. Hey, Hanalytics, what's up this morning?
Good morning, Martin. You will have a fairly busy morning, but there is time for a good cup of coffee. Your biometrics show me that it would be good for you, but just one cup.
I don't know, guys, I'm showing this quite often. It's a concept demo we have made here, but it cracks me up every time because, you know, I'm feeling friendship here. This guy knows that I'm drinking too much coffee in the morning. He said it in a very nice way. 2 cups, okay, 1 cup, but 3 cups, my decisions are stupid, seriously, right? Because that's my body, that's my DNA. Also, he says you will have a busy morning, which means I'm useless in the mornings. I know this thing knows it, but still I'm biased to think I'm a hero. I'm going to drive through this morning and I'm going to hold a great meeting. No, don't hold meetings in the mornings. You're a grumpy old bastard. Come on, just take it easy. Listen to this data. The data doesn't lie. Ask the right questions. See what I said? Obviously, this must be safe, secure. Some call it private, which is also another relationship we probably will change in the future. Now, Hanalytics, thank you. I will do this. Tell me and Leah, my colleague, talked about how we've been, increasing our employee satisfaction numbers. We would like to continue to do it. Also, how people hang out and how that helps productivity. Any data you can pull out on that. And also, hanging out is expensive. Travel costs are increasing. So can you help me on this very ambiguous human question?
When colleagues travel so they can spend time face to face, your delivery quality goes up 5%. That saves software maintenance costs with customers by 2.5%. I found the routes that would make sense economically and that allow the colleagues to spend the most time face to face. We will review them tomorrow.
Okay, so now he's my boss. Review them tomorrow. Here's your time slot. You're welcome. You've been summoned. It's okay, because I'm as a boss, I'm usually biased to be very busy and very important. This is more important than me. I can drop my bias and be a better decision maker, actually better than I am already, actually superhuman in that sense, super Martin Wezowski. I didn't even ask these questions. I didn't even correlate these data sets. This is why we're working with integration, harmonization of data, looking for different data silos, looking not only for the system of space that we save the data in, the storage of data, but the contextual data that comes out of it. We do so many things in, for example, our business technology platform to emphasize the business, not only the technology platform. This is the outcomes we look for, the human-machine symbiosis relationship. So I can, remove the constraints of my sometimes very simple knowledge. So I can become, like normal people, human at last. We've been trapped in Excel spreadsheets, and form fields and hunting and gathering all our lives. It's time to free ourselves and be really smart about our lives. And we believe that the future holds a smartest app in the world is the one that makes you smarter. And this data is freed from the systems of content to this system of context. Data is designed to be information, then knowledge, and then wisdom. And in the end, the products are not only the features, they are products that are served to build relationship. And we build this collective intelligence, collective data processing, if you wish, human data processing, not only algorithmic processing, how we talk to each other. For example, our meeting today, where we also will understand that managing information and collecting features, computers, let's call it data, will do it, algorithms will do it better. We are here to nurture relationships. Whatever you want to offer on the market, ask yourself, let's design this relationship first, the rest will follow. That's possible to do. This rest is sometimes really, really nicely expressed through companies like Patagonia, extremely successful. And they saying sometimes crazy stuff opposite to what business sense would say some years ago. But remember, we live in the future, and this is a futuristic company. They say, hey, we're taking money to sue the president because he's stealing land. How crazy is that? I mean, where in the supply chain does that help? They said, don't buy Patagonia. Come here with your jacket, we'll repair it. That's a radical act. We don't want you to buy more. We want to repair everything. And we give you back 10 million because Black Friday is a stupid business model. They even address that. Why? Because Patagonia has a purpose. They want you to buy a jacket to start with, to climb a mountain. And when you're up on the mountain and you go, wow, this is beautiful, this is exciting. And Patagonia says, told you so. This is what we think as well. Welcome to the club. Do you want to save it? And you say, yeah, good, because that's our purpose. This is why we're here. This is why we have this business model, to save this planet. And actually, we just happen to make great jackets. SAP is in, improving people's lives and helping the world run better. We just happen to make software. And you guys, you really do know your purpose somewhere. And you have this business model and the things you're really good at for that purpose. And I think it creates this question. Now we're coming into the end of the presentation. Why are we relevant 10 years from now? And we can ask ourselves this as teams, as sections of our company, as a company. Why are you, as an enterprise, whatever is your enterprise now or in the soon future, why are you relevant 10 years from now? And to whom? To answer the first question, you need to see this question gives many, many questions. With what? What offerings? What relationships? What technologies? What data? How do we handle? Enormous question. And it's also a personal question. Why are you? Why is Martin Wezowski relevant 10 years from now? Please don't start answering that question, because it can make your mind a little bit busy. Let's put it like that. However, I urge you to have this question somewhere in your office, somewhere in your room, just hanging there. Because if you cannot start to imagine to answer this question, well, the risk is evident. You will not be relevant 10 years from now. Okay, no pressure. And actually, just the last demo here. This is an application called pen and paper. Extremely useful for a generation like me. I'm Generation X. I know how to use that, I promise. But I also know the digital era. This is a classic application, travel expenses. You know it. This was a business person, a gentleman called Aldrin, 1969. He used a company vehicle. Let's see. It was a government spacecraft. He used it to fly to the moon on a business trip. And this was Buzz Aldrin, obviously flying to the first trip to the moon. And he needed to fill this in to get his $33 back. This is true. And he, the brave Buzz Aldrin, the beautiful mind going out there, he couldn't even imagine that 47 years later, he would make a funny tweet. What technology is that, by the way? 1969, to make a joke about it, that he had to do it. I think we could today, and with the future, and with us gathering here, with our imagination, our understanding of analytics and data and how that can be extrapolated, but also the imagination, how it can be backcasted. What is the desirable future we imagine, put it there and work across these three horizons. Now we will understand how future works exponentially and so on. I think we can actually laugh about it and hopefully put it to rest, to not waste the human ingenuity in such a way, because they will come and flourish in a symbiosis. Now you'll probably hear music in your ears, and it's not because my presentation was of such a beauty that it creates music in your head, although I wish that, no. And you're guessing, who is it? Vivaldi, Verdi, Rossi? No, it's an AI, obviously. Not a human composed this beautiful piece. It's an AI called Iva, and the piece is called Genesis. And I love the name because it reminds me about the future we already live in. We live in the history of our own future, and we will spend the rest of our lives in the future. What's your imagination? What did you hope for? Every moment is a beginning. It's a genesis to the next. And I think if we think like that, we can design a future we all want to live in. These futures are designable, not handed to you. Good luck with that, and remember, always have a little bit fun on the side. It always helps. It's a very human thing to do. Good luck. Thank you very much, guys.
Yes, Martin, thank you very, very much for your insights, for your point of view to the future. It's amazing and very, very inspiring.
Thank you.
Not at least for me. And at the one point, if the systems are going to understanding what we are thinking, I just try to imagine myself in a discussion with my wife or with my daughters, and I'm not sure what my feeling should be in this.
I know what you mean. Many questions are arising. Yeah.
Yeah, there are indeed some questions. So, one point: how do we get a whole organization to incorporate and develop a common vision or identity? What we determined is necessary and important to manage the next steps into the future.
Tough question, right? It's one of the biggest one. It's a little bit like, if I knew it, I would be very, very rich, I think. I could sell that information. Yes, what we do, what I believe is working, is an organization needs an imagination department. And I know it sounds funny, but I use these words especially to provoke. Usually these things are called research and development, R&D, innovation department, und so weiter, und so weiter. But we need to remember that these should be separate from the rest of the organization. Because the question was, how can the whole organization develop such a thing? I don't think a whole organization should, because then we will be starving. No salaries will be paid. The organization must deliver on the promise to the market as well. Let's not be naive. However, there must be a dedicated and protected space for imagination, innovation, and testing. And the KPIs, for example, are not the same KPIs as in production. If you mix the KPIs, everybody looks bad. The production looks unimaginative and non-innovative, and the innovation looks non-productive. and actually as a cost center, which it is. So we need to first spread it across these three horizons. Who caters for the horizon to deliver on the incremental propositions and innovation? The second horizon, who do we partner with? And what are the business models in exchange and relationships we have? And the third horizon, total thought leadership that you can backcast. Once you establish such a vision, do the slingshot. Tell this vision, make prototypes. I showed you a couple of prototypes. They can be comical, not comical like in a positive, but they can be funny, entertaining, but they are very educating. An engineer, an architect can look at the data and she can say, wait a second, Martin, how can we disambiguate such a human question between travel and everything? No, we can't. Good. Now you have your to-do list. Can you take this vision to, can you take the science fiction to science fact, to business fact? This is the challenge we face. And this is when you start to talk to your company about it, to your whole family, however many thousands you are. We are 100,000 at SAP. I took this vision and started to establish it. We have a team very soon that is called Next, New Experiences and Technologies, that produces these things to show the rest of the company, can you help us make this reality? What parts are difficult? What's part are impossible? What's the utopia and what is the doutopia, as I call it? The delivery, the engineering, the design of it. So you need to go in steps and you need to do it. Otherwise, the people in your company will ignore you. There are ways to make visions for a whole company.
Yeah, understand. So there's another very, very interesting question, Martin. How do we reconcile the fact of dwindling resources with the requirement for more technology in the future? And is this important to a company like SAP? Is just a second question.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for this question. Our agenda on environment has risen exponentially since just a couple of years, especially also with changes in the board that we have made. This is a top priority. And the reason is very simple. We looked at ourselves. We catering for so many, like 70 to 80% of the world transactions. Now, what does this mean for this planet? You know, when people say, yeah, we use human-centered design for our services and products, we know our market, we know our consumers. And I started to ask, human-centered, that's tricky, because this is why the planet is suffering. We made it so about ourselves, not about the planet. Where is the planet-centered design for our products and services, like Patagonia's? And this is what SAP is asking ourselves today. Because if you take a fast-moving goods company, like, yeah, you can probably mention several of them. Some of them come from Switzerland, some of them come from America, and so on. You know which I'm talking about. Now, they basically run everything you need to run in a digital era. They run most of it in the cloud. I wish it was more, and so on and so on. They build on a platform and they connect the HR, the manufacturing, the supply chain, the legal, boom, 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 all the systems. Now, such a company, if they have agricultural deliveries somewhere in the world, how do they know how the soil is watered? Who measures that? How is that compared to the environment where these farmers live? Do we know if the farmers' daughters have money to go to school? Because this is another UN's sustainable development goals, that people get education, especially women. So I won't deep dive in this because it's a long answer, I know. Now, SAP can start to go from end to end. After this goods is consumed, where does the paper go? Where was it wrapped in plastic? Are there digital designs that can make it? Can we digitally measure how much gets wasted? Everything in between. Only SAP today, unfortunately, only us can have this end-to-end span, and we're taking it extremely seriously because the amount of data and the systems in correlation, only we can deliver, and we aim to do so.
In the sense of the end-to-end vision of
environmental, yes, exactly, yeah.
It's a key. We have a lot of other questions, Martin, and these are really, really good questions. So once more, thank you for the presentation. We had a wonderful look into the future, but many of us often only look at the next 10 years at most. What development do you think will significantly change our future in 10 years?
Wow. So, you know, when we say, I actually claim that I have a 10-year vision here to present, that I also sold to SAP's board, by the way. So now you know. we are accepting this as a vision, and we're starting to unpack, start to work on it. So you will see evidence of this as well. And I think it's interesting for you as well to know what we're doing in our kitchen, if you wish. Now, 10 years, it's a long time. 10 years today, it's like 50 years back. I mean, I'm serious, because of the exponential development of the future. And actually, when I present this, and I have hard time to sell this, to be honest, even internally at SAP, when I'm saying, guys, the third horizon, it's not measurable. It's not a quantitative, it's a qualitative horizon. It's called desirable futures. What would be great business software? And I showed these crazy examples, this me talking to, it's a qualitative description. It's not quantitative. How much data would we compute? Because that's impossible to know. Now, 10 years from now, what I really hope for, and this is thought leadership, what you imagine can be shaped. So when the question comes, what I predict, that's not what I will answer. This is what I prepare for, and this is what we're working for, is actually this symbiosis. I think we put processes, machines, effectiveness and efficiency, repeated results, and all that in the center of production so far on this planet. However, when I say these things, repeat results, scale efficiency, all these things actually describe more a computer program than a human. So if that's possible, then we are replaceable. But we are not. We know that deeply in our hearts. We are not replaceable, for example, in imagination and purpose seeking. How can we combine these two things? Aha. So this is where SAP's innovation vision comes in. When we say we will put the last 50 years, we put technology to our help. The next 50 years, maybe that's totally just a commercial sentence. But let's say the next 10 years, we will try to put the human in the center of her own work, where human ingenuity, business imagination, contract making, relationship building between us will take help of the augmented data, augmented analytics coming to our help, the automation of processes and tasks, the autonomy of networks through blockchain and so on. I think these things with human ingenuity, our imagination and innovation comes together with technology and data. This will explode in a fantastic relationship. And this is what we're working for the next 10 years.
Okay, so I think this also answers one of the next questions. What is your favorite innovation finally led to improvement of SAP? So to include or to integrate this human ingenuity into the application, into the solutions.
Yes, and that very good. I understand that the question followed that because to be honest, when I use many devices today, it could be SAP, it could be Microsoft, it could be Apple, whatever. I actually sometimes stop myself thinking, these machines are so rude. I mean, I've been customer for many of these brands for decades. I'm 50 years old. I've been using technology all my life, and very diverse technology, promise you, including SAP. I'm an SAP user myself, including Microsoft, including Apple. There's devices all over my home. I'm thinking, guys, how can you still not know me? How I've been a customer. I've been paying you money for such. How can you still not say good morning, Martin? Have a cup of coffee, but not too much. I will not tell anybody. I'm a friend of yours. You see what I'm saying? And this is what we're trying to reach. How can I still need to fill in this form fields on the internet? I'm thinking, guys, is this still, yeah, I have some automation from password control and all that. It could be, I mean, it's like, sometimes the machines put me to as a robot to work, rather than the opposite. I agree with the one that answers this, asks this question. We are on a mission to change that, put me, uniquely me, and you will work definitely. Software, for example, there is something we work, sorry for a long answer, but this is intriguing to me. For example, we're working on a technical architectural change that is imagined self-running, self-composing application. That applications are not composed in design time. Here's the prerequisites, what we want to do. Here's the engineering brief. This is customer brief. Now let's put design thinking on it, produce it, B test, C test, F test, release, early release, beta, and so on. No, that's months, sometimes years in development. I want applications to compose themselves on the question through multiple micro nano services coming together and populate the screen, my glasses, my whatever t-shirt of the future that will be my interface with the information only when I need, only when I need it. So runtime composition for Martin Wezowski or Valdemar, for example, instead of for a ambiguous amount of people that we have today. We will be less rude and more personal, more individual, more granular in building our software. And this is also strategies we will deploy to answer your question. Long answer, but you actually nailed it. It's a fantastic question.
It's an important point, and I'm very, very sure that a lot of SAP customers are looking forward to this future within the SAP. And perhaps to the last question, watching a little bit at the time, a little bit different point of view. Can you recommend some ways of dealing with the unpredictability of change?
Almost philosophical, right?
Yeah.
I mean, humans, Homo sapiens survived despite that. We couldn't predict change. Okay, some of us died. Sorry, guys, eaten by tigers in the jungle and so on. Thank you for the early experiments. And thank you for the fast learnings. But we cannot predict the future. If someone tells you they can predict the future, they are truly insane. They need help. So sorry, but that's the truth. Or they are charlatans. They are here to take your money. And we can see this in mega churches, and we can see this in some presentations from politicians. We can see this even in some business. Oh, we will change the future. This is, we have predicted. No, you haven't. You have to imagine. You're preparing for a future. But this is the power of that imagination. You know, I sat with a CEO of a bank, big bank, very solid brand. And I'm presenting something similar, but it was more like a closed doors. We were only 20 people. And without a formal session, so I went bananas. I really showed all the craziness that could happen, brain interfaces and so on in the future. And the CEO, she stops me. She says, Martin, I had enough. This is crazy. This is chaos. I said, yeah, I know. How do you think about it, Martin? Look, we are a bank. We're in the business of stability. And you're showing me chaos. I was thinking, oh, so the opposite, which is obviously prediction, we cannot predict change as the question. So the opposite to stability is what? She says, instability, of course, chaos. We can predict or plan anything. I said, no, it's not. It's emergence. It's evolution. You need, as a business, and you guys know this, as a business, you always need to take a step to see the next step, to see the next. You need to play with the emergence. This is why it's called an action sport. You need to stick your head out on that mountain bike. You cannot just predict what will change each little stone in the road. I hope you understand the analogy. You need to walk the path. This is be in love with the change and the action that it brings to you. Sometimes it hurts a little bit, but you will learn very quickly, I'm pretty sure. Love that change, love the unpredictability, but have a vision, have a purpose, and have an imagination written down, basically to put a flag in at least a direction you're headed.
I love this discussion, and finally, the purpose thing is one of the key elements we need to elaborate. All the organization needs to elaborate. Thank you very, very much for your contribution to this event, for the inspiring insight to the future. Martin, I just check. Yes, it was finally the last question even. We would love to have you in one of the next innovation days again at the stage. Have a good time. Greetings to Berlin, and see you hopefully soon. Thank you.
And thank you very much. I would like to add that thank you for taking the time and taking the Q&A with the long answers. Usually people want to know everything in 5 minutes. You just invested differently, and thank you for doing that.
It's a pleasure, and vielen Dank auch Ihnen für die Mitarbeit, fürs Zuhören.